I can't think of a more troubled DC movie that is almost destined to flop. Oh wait, I can. Okay, the fact of the matter is Aquaman 2, as of right now, does not matter. But one day it will, in a big way. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. On this channel we talk about all things video games and comic books. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode like this. So for the upcoming Aquaman 2 movie to make sense in the future, we're actually going to have to go back in time, back to when there was the Snyderverse, or the DCEU. It is no secret that Zack Snyder was eventually planning towards an Injustice-style movie, as seen in the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. Obviously, with the ending there, with the world in complete shambles, Superman is the bad guy, and Batman is pretty much leading a regime, you could almost bet that the second or maybe third Justice League movie, if Zack Snyder were to continue to have his way with it, would have been an Injustice movie. Now, about a year ago, James Gunn actually took on the role as head of DC Studios. And just putting my cards out on the table, I for one am actually very excited about that. I am excited to see his unified vision in the video games, movies, TV shows, and all the other forms of media, to where it's all going to be one connected universe. For the most part, the same actor that is voicing that character in a video game is also going to be voicing them in animation. I have loved his work in all three Guardians movies, and I am very excited to see what his unique take is going to be with all these different characters, and as the main, essentially, Kevin Feige of the DC studios. However, the problem that I'm currently having with him is I don't know which direction that we're going to go with the actors and ultimately what's going on with DC right now. He did release a video earlier this year basically outlining what Chapter 1 is going to look like in the Gods and Monsters segment of his grand scheme of what he's going to be doing with DC. And while it's not the whole complete picture of what Chapter 1 is going to look like, he actually said that he is going to start off Chapter 1 in a completely fresh slate. So the entire DC universe is going to start off on a fresh slate. We're going to have all new experiences, for the most part, completely new Batman, completely new Superman, and everything is going to be all brand new. It's going to be the perfect jumping on point for anybody that is interested in DC. And I absolutely love that. He also said that any movie like The Batman with Robert Pattinson or The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, those are going to continue, but they're going to be very clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds. So that way you can very clearly tell what is going to be in the mainline DC universe and what are going to be some of the side stories that are free to continue on and do their own thing, but they're going to be very clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds. Now, assuming that James Gunn is going to actually follow through with that with a completely fresh slate, including bringing in all new actors for Superman, as we've seen with the new casting, and for new castings for Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and just everybody else that we've previously seen in the DCEU, that would mean doing away with everyone that we have loved and seen over the years in the original DC Universe or the DC Extended Universe. So that would mean in the mainline DC Universe that there would be no more Henry Cavill, no more Jason Momoa, no more Gal Gadot, no more so on and so forth, fill in the blank. However, some of the things start to kind of come into play where there's a little bit of issues of, is he really going with a full clean slate, or is he kind of just going away with the big actors and leaving all the small things? And it seems to be that we're going with the latter. So we are going to continue having Peacemaker with John Cena. He is great in the role, but that is also very clearly tied to the original DCEU, considering that that is dealing with the Suicide Squad and the same Amanda Waller from the original Suicide Squad, which is very clearly integrated into the original DCEU. So we have some loose threads there. We even have Amanda Waller herself confirmed to be moving forward into this new DC universe. So that would essentially mean that in this full reboot that we are getting new actors for Superman and so on and so forth, but maybe some of these smaller actors that might not play a very integral role, or maybe people just don't really remember that well, those are going to be safe to continue on into the DC universe. But my problem with that is that it is not really a fresh, clean slate, because some people might remember from the original Suicide Squad or the new Suicide Squad where James Gunn directed that one, that Viola Davis is in both of those movies, and now in this supposed brand new fresh universe, she's also here too. So that's my big problem with James Gunn leading the DC Universe, and at least the information that is available to us now. I am sure that he has a plan. I am sure that it's all going to work out in the end, and for the most part, the general consensus about 5-6 years into his project, into what this new universe is going to look like, I think for the most part, most people are going to enjoy it. Most people that are into the DC Universe anyways to begin with. However, as of right now, with the information that we have, it kind of seems like a muddled mess, but again, we don't have all the information available to us, so we'll just have to wait and see. But how this all relates back to Aquaman. So, Aquaman 2 is going to be a very clear continuation of the original Aquaman from 2018. It's going to continue on with the main plot lines that were left off in Aquaman, and it's going to be very clearly a just continuation of that. And in the grand scheme of things, it seems that if this were to be properly labeled as a DC Elseworlds project, that is perfectly fine and dandy. Where I think that this is going to come into play in the future and not really affect us right now is that right now we're gearing up for the next phase of this brand new DCU. And so essentially this story of Aquaman 2 is just going to be a continuation of a, for the time being, dying universe of the DCEU. With James Gunn's new DCU, this continuation of Aquaman should, by all measures, not be in the main DCU, but it could continue in a DC Elseworlds storyline and just continue going off all on its own side tangent story. Especially considering that the new DCU is going to be starting off in 2025, officially kicking off with Superman Legacy, which I am very excited about. But that would mean that this iteration of Aquaman is probably going to be set on the back burner for a couple of years if they are going to continue to do a third movie. Again, it should be titled as a DC Elseworlds project, so that way it's very clearly off on its own side thing. People that are interested in that can continue to watch that, but the people that are just invested in the original new DC universe, they can continue to know that this is the main canon, so to speak, of what is going forward in the mainline story. So that being said, with a new DCU kicking off in 2025, like I said, you can expect that Aquaman is going to go on the back burner for a little bit so they can properly establish and get a good grounding on what this new universe is going to look like, what the rules are, what's going on with all the different actors, and ultimately what the main plot line and thread of this new universe is going to be. However, before I get into where this is going to come into play in the future, I just want to remind you to drop a like and hit that subscribe button. That is the biggest way that you can help this channel grow. We also have an ongoing series of DC and Marvel characters that are too powerful to be kept alive, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss episodes like that. Now, ultimately, where I think that Aquaman 2 is going to pay off in the long run is, keep in mind, with it properly being labeled as a DC Elseworlds project, which, again, I think is what they should do, just to keep things nice, simple, not confusing for the average moviegoer, is that the Snyder Universe or the DCEU can continue to live on in the DC Elseworlds projects that are going on, that will continue to go on as the mainline DCU really sets its foot in the ground of what its ultimate plotline is going to be. Now, I do think that we need to have some time to kind of distance ourselves from the Snyder Universe, just for the average moviegoer to not confuse, oh, why are there two different Supermans? Wasn't Superman last year Henry Cavill? Why do we have this new guy over here? Just for the average moviegoer to not get confused, there is going to need to be some time separation so that people can very clearly tell that this new Superman is not in any way related to the Snyderverse Superman. But that being said, I think that the Snyderverse does have a place living on in the DC Elseworlds universe, especially considering the route that it was going, which was Injustice. I would love to see an Injustice movie, and honestly, I think that the actors in the original DCEU are great in their own way, especially with that being a more dark and brooding universe, especially with how Zack Snyder was going with it and everything like that. I think that that is a perfect fit for the Injustice universe. And so I think that they can continue to help build that up and build out the different storylines, really flesh things out, so when it finally gets to the Injustice plot points of everything going on with Lois Lane, with Joker, and just everything like that, I think that where that can really shine is that will have a huge payoff down the road, maybe 5-10 years from now, when DC Elseworlds is really taking off and we're able to see the Snyderverse really live on in that pocket universe. And when we finally get to Injustice, there's real emotion, there's real stakes of everything going on. And ultimately where I think that this can really pay off with Aquaman 2, building into that, is not only giving us an Injustice universe movie, live action, that we feel very connected to, especially with these actors that we've seen over the years. Eventually we could have an Injustice versus our mainline universe going off and just clashing with each other in an epic crossover. I think that would be something incredible to see on screen. But that is my pitch for how Aquaman 2 could and probably should take off, on how this is really going to affect the DC universe as a whole down the road. But if you stuck around for this long, I definitely appreciate it. Be sure to check out my latest video right here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.